Hello, friends, and thank you very much for joining me. I've got a great guest on today's conversation. It's Anya Kamenetz of the Golden Hour on Substack. You've got to subscribe to the goldenhour.substack.com, where she's writing about the climate crisis and parenting, education, and so much more. She's an award-winning journalist, and I love following her and supporting her there. That is what I have for you today. I don't have a headlines or clip show because I went to the John Carroll show last night, or I'm going. I'm recording this ahead of time, but very excited to see John and some of her other listener friends from the stand-up community. And go support John at johncarroll.org, and I'll tell you more about the show and share some pictures, videos, and more. But that is what I've got for you. Anya Kamenetz coming up. Go follow her and support her. Let's do it. I am live with one of my favorite journalists and thinkers and writers. It's Anya Kamenetz. And if you're not subscribed to the Golden Hour on Substack, you're really missing out on a very unique perspective, and you should pay for it. Get a paid subscription. I don't say this for too many people, but to Anya's work. Thank you for joining me. She's outside if you're watching us, and that's cool. You get to be outside.
Yeah. I'm taking time off from my family vacation to be with you, Pete, and with whoever joins us, which is either such a testament to your work and how much I love talking with you, or what a workaholic I am and how I can never take a week completely off. What do you think it is?
Well, I think that you wouldn't do it for just anybody, so I'm flattered by that. But I also think you would do it for someone that you want to talk to because you're connected, very much connected to your work. And I think that when you're on vacation with your family, it's so easy to just fall into like, I'm going to totally unplug. I'm not going to do this. But sometimes you need a break and to reconnect. So no judgment from me, and really happy that is the choice you made. And thank you very much for spending just a few minutes with us. I won't take up too much of your time, but I have a bunch of questions.
Great. Let's do it.
Well, just want to put it out there where we're at. You've been writing and talking a lot about the climate crisis for a long time. It's hard to frame it at any one time, looking forward, looking behind, talking where we're at. But I kind of just wanted to start with what we've seen this summer and what people are experiencing around the world. Obviously, the Canadian wildfires, the American wildfires, the heat and wildfires in France and Europe, and rich places and poor places alike, the talk about it, and the statistics. Hottest July ever, we just learned, in the U.S. And so how are you seeing, as this summer's passed, as we've seen more of the same, maybe arguably worse, because you document it really well in the Golden Hour, but kind of broadly where we're at here towards the end of summer?
So this is an El Nino weather cycle. It hasn't peaked. It's just started. And so very high. And I follow Zeke Housefeather for climate data. That's Bill McKibben follows him too. So just to situate us, this isn't random, right? We are in a time of an intensified weather cycle. But then the other thing that may be happening as well is that climate scientists are starting to say that the rate of warming might be accelerating. And there are a number of different reasons for that. They can't say definitively that that's true. But what we do know is we sort of have started to cross that 1.5 degree threshold, which, if you remember, back in 2018, it was seen as we have 12 years to stop us from crossing that safety threshold. Well, we're basically over it now. And I think the point that I'm making in the most recent piece is we're going to see more like this, and particularly the next 18 months are going to be tough in all these different kinds of ways. But somehow, for me, understanding the broader pattern, it does help in a way. Not that, it doesn't make it any easier. Certainly doesn't make it any easier if you're vulnerable people in a heat wave or in a fire, but to understand that this is part of something that's happening, a bigger picture.
So a lot of people are punching in on the Substack Live. People who just play on the podcast, whatever. And they're like, oh, I love Anya. I'm a subscriber, or I like Pete. They don't usually say that I love Pete, but I like Pete's guests, they might say. And so they start hearing us talk about this, and maybe they start punching out, which is which is the question I want to ask you that you write about. I mean, you and I have been covering this issue for a long time. I've been interviewing everybody about it. I've been to the protests. I've given the talks. I've worked with young people. I've done so much different activism and advocacy for it. And I feel like people have looked away. They're ignoring it. They don't want to think about it. They're in denial, whatever it is. And right now, what do you say to those people like, yeah, I don't want to listen to this talk with Pete and I?
So I think that the important thing to understand is that denial takes energy too. So the amount of energy that you spend saying, I'm not thinking about this, is actually energy that you can't use in your life. You can't use it to be close to people. You can't use it to pay attention to what's going on. And so as hard as it sounds, and you work out, I know that you work out, right? Like there's a huge global world of physical fitness. And the central lesson of physical fitness is you do the hard thing, right? You build up your muscle by doing the uncomfortable, hard thing. You do uncomfortable things daily. And what I'm trying to get people to do is emotionally do that workout. Spend some time with your feelings, because on the other side of that is a life of being in touch with reality, which is, first of all, going to help you make better decisions just on a safety basis. Secondly, help you feel like you're contributing towards a problem. And that is, obviously the key for everyone. Everyone needs to be working on this in some way.
I love it. I love the way that you say it. I love the way that you write it and talk about it. And that's why people should stay for this conversation. And yeah, while I do work out and I do strength training and running, mainly cardio, that's not as hard of a workout as my meditation, which is strengthening my brain, which is doing the work that you just kind of mentioned about managing emotions. And specifically, what my meditation does is it trains my brain to recognize my thoughts during the day. So when I see a news item, or when I feel the temperature, or look out my window and see the rain coming down at levels I've never seen over and over, I can be triggered in any number of ways by that. But my meditation helps me recognize that thought. And that to me is one of the most important things. And I mentioned this to you because you tie this type of cognitive, intellectual, spiritual thinking into your work. So I'm going to ask you how you just pick up from there and tell me how that is an effective tool.
I mean, I think it's essential for anyone who wants to live any kind of life. It doesn't matter what your circumstances are, this kind of mental, emotional training. The way that I connect it back to change making or just being an effective person in the world is that a lot of times we let our emotions separate us from actually effective action, right? So we get overwhelmed, we have pity, we have, we're afraid, we have worry, and it stops us from really doing the next thing, which is reaching out, figuring out how you can make a difference, forming those relationships, being part of a community. And we have to dig in and stay engaged. And this is a lot. Like, we're asking a lot. Being alive in these times is not simple, right? And I'm the last person to think that there's a quick fix. But what I see happening all the time is, the latest horrible news comes and people think, oh, this will be the wake up call. And it's like, that's not how that works, because you can't wake people up when the reason that they're pretending to be asleep because they're terrified, right? The fear is not going to get dealt with. It's going to get managed and down. And, if you read the headlines, and I was looking this morning, I was going on a run. I was searching my podcasts. I was like, who is talking about the wildfires? The answer was nobody. None of the mainstream news was making this front and center. And I actually ended up listening to a conversation between two local guys in Spokane who have a business podcast. And they just spent the hour talking about their personal experiences of the fire, which was fascinating. And from the perspective of the community that they live in. And I was like, everyone needs to hear this,
It's the reason why I had you on, by the way, because no one's talking about it. And my go-to guests on it are obviously myriad of different experts and so on. But I often think about my good friend, Michael Mann, who I love. But, Michael's a scientist, and I want to get a broader view of this. And as we're talking about it, parenting and advocacy and just a way to think about it. So if people aren't subscribed to the Golden Hour right now, you should. There's nothing better than being self-employed and being an independent journalist, going on vacation and feeling the guilt that you don't get paid leave when you're working. So the best thing ever is when you get a paid subscriber while you're on vacation. So I want 10 new paid subscribers for the Golden Hour. It's such a difference maker. This is my Golden Hour Drive Fund because Anya's joining me on vacation. Everybody needs to go subscribe to her work. It's vital. There's a lot of us are a dime a dozen. She is not. What's the other, what's a phrase that's not a dime a dozen? Something in the rough. A diamond in the rough? That seems kind of.
I don't know. But I mean, I'm trying to tie these things together, right? And like you said,
not enough people are.
Well, it's hard because it's complicated, right? And I mean, there's a lot of different, and there are people who are specialists and we need to listen to them. But in your life, you go through all of these different things. You still have to make coffee in the morning. You still have to, parent your kids. And then there's this big looming thing happening. And so what I'm trying to get people to do is make that action toward the problem just a piece of their day and a piece of their time, because it really does build efficacy. And even though we are living in a time where we can't necessarily reverse climate change, we don't have the power to do that right now. And we are a long way from net zero, which is where we need to be. But we are also in this time of incredible progress in clean energy. And so there's so much that people can do. And I really advocate that they look at community-based solutions that are both adaptation and mitigation, of which there are many.
One of it, well said, get local, get smart, there's so much you can do locally and make a huge impact, and just keep this issue in your range with all the other things that are happening. Obviously, we're most concerned about democracy and campaign finance and voting rights and all of that. But with all of this, we have to keep space for climate, for nature, for sustainability, and for the environment. And for, most importantly, maybe not our kids, but our kids' kids. Like, who are we if we're not going to pass on a better future? Like, that is a philosophy based in every single tribal community and religion everywhere. It's just the right thing to do also. So get involved locally. Specifically, one thing that you're doing in New York and others are doing, and it's happened in Europe, is my understanding, and that makes so much sense, is having a solar panel hang outside your balcony. If you live in a building, you can generate your own energy with a solar panel that you hang outside your window. Tell me a little bit about that, because I feel like it's taken off in, I think, Germany or European countries. Where are we at in New York? And you're involved in this. This is what we're talking about. Get involved.
Absolutely. So Utah was the first state. So first of all, this is so American because you literally go to Walmart and you buy an appliance, you plug it in, and you start saving money. You can be a renter. You don't need a lot of space. You can put it outside your window if you don't have a balcony, and you don't have any. The key is there's no big expensive hookups or permitting, which is the bottleneck for a lot of places. And it's not going to eliminate your electric bill, but it's going to cut down your electric bill, which is not nothing, especially in the state that we're in. So Utah, not a blue state, was the first state to legalize it. 9 other states have joined. New York, we campaigned over the past year. I campaigned with Climate Families. There was a big coalition. My local assembly member was like a sponsor of the bill. So it was like very local to me. And it's great in New York because it's so dense and people live in co-ops and renter buildings and they can't necessarily get together to put solar on their roofs. So this has passed in New York. We're waiting on the governor to sign it. I hope that she will. But in the meantime, spread the word because this can go forward in more places. And actually in New York, the utility said, okay, like they didn't throw a lot of roadblocks in the way, which is interesting. Because in the aggregate, I mean, this is the way that you get distributed solar. And if you look at, this is a left field example, but a country like Pakistan is one of the most climate challenged countries in the world. Yeah. And they had very unreliable electric grid and people had to buy generators and buy diesel. And they've had a solar panel revolution just because of cheap solar from China. And they leapfrogged into this distributed solar future, essentially. And so it's amazing.
It's so interesting when you look at other countries and what they're doing with any kind of renewable alternative energies. And we're so stuck in the past. I'm like, I've seen so many YouTubers and journalists, automobile experts going to China. Like everybody goes to China. They must pay for the trips and documents their EV cars and the things that they can do, the speed with which they charge, the distance they go, and the price of those cars. Like if more Americans knew about that.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the solar panels outside your windows and so many other solutions that are other countries are utilizing, and we can talk about why we don't do that in America or why we don't do it in certain states. But obviously, yes, certain states, certainly, you can get involved. There's probably already somebody doing it. Look around, and if you don't know, ask Anya. You can reach out, go follow Golden Hour. She's got all kinds of links.
Yeah.
What else local, specifically, just give me, whenever I talk to a New Yorker who's obviously very connected and smart like you, and involved, I got to ask you about that mayor of yours. Speaking of energy, like something, I saw headlines yesterday, they're going to somehow capture the heat in the subway to put it in people's apartments. And then I just saw Mom Donnie and Kathy Hochul smiling. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. It's funny because I know local activists have been talking about this for a long time, this waste heat and sort of local geothermal systems, essentially. Madani is an interesting one because from the climate perspective, he doesn't talk about it very much, and I've talked to other campaigners and other people about DSA is not putting climate front and center. This was different in 2018 when you saw AOC sitting in Nancy Pelosi's office, remember, with Sunrise, and the climate movement at that time, climate justice, right? It was front and center. Now we have economic issues, we have security issues, we have a fascism issue, we have a concentration camp issue. There is there's a lot of issues, right? A lot of problems that are coming ahead of climate change, even though climate change is really overhead of all of it, right? And so the argument whether you should talk about climate, whether you shouldn't talk about climate, I think we need multi-solutions, right? So I understand that Mamdani is focused on making the city affordable and livable for everyone. Part of that is your power bill, and renewables can help with power bills. So, if he can stack the solution and talk about things another idea is, what makes it easier for people to bike around the city versus having to drive around the city? Can we make it easier there's controversies now about electric bikes. So, I understand that talking about climate change is hard. My personal work is making it easier to talk about it. But I also understand that there are people who aren't ready for that conversation because they have other things going on in their lives, and we have to accept that too, while not letting go of the fight.
Well, you're better at that than I am, but I just don't have a lot of patience for people that are apathetic and unengaged on some of these issues. But at the same time, that's a lot of my hang up. It's a lot of my stuff, my own kind of anger and passion and opinion. So when it comes to any of these solutions that we're talking about, whether you talk about climate or whether you just implement renewable energy solutions, if a thing brings down your energy bill and it creates jobs, that's a winner for a politician or anybody working in government. And that is happening all over the world without even mentioning climate, right? It's better thing, car, lawnmower, you name it, cheaper, safer, all of it. And, here's a job for you when jobs are going away in many ways because of AI. So you kind of see these rules and laws and policies being implemented around the world without talking about it. And so you've been writing about this as well. It's happening without anybody even necessarily pushing for it because, as people sometimes predicted, markets would actually do a lot of the work at some point. Far too late to mitigate. But it is happening as a result of markets, less as a result of government incentives sometimes.
It makes me marvel. We're having there's a solar eclipse tomorrow.
Yeah, I just read about that. And Europe can see it. My family's in Italy, so I just mentioned it. Can we see it here?
No, it's going to be about 10% here. So if you have the glasses, if you look up, you'll see a tiny bite out of the cookie. But, I've seen two of them, the 2017 and 2024. And when you take in the fact that the moon is exactly the size and exactly the distance to blot out the sun, they are the same size. There's no reason for that to be the case, right? It's so random. We are alive on this planet that has this moon of this size and this sun of this exact same size. Why? And by the same token, I'm getting around to this, we're living at this time when climate change is worse than it's ever been and solar energy and clean energy is taking off like never before. What caused those things to happen at the same time? Why are we here? I don't know why, but I know that I have to keep talking about it. You know what I mean? Both of those things.
Yes, 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 you do, and you are, and I am so happy that you are and have been. Let me ask you, I always love talking politics with you, too. I love your perspective on politics, the things that you're sharing at Blue Sky, the things that you're writing about. Obviously, you've covered, everything, but specifically education. I just wanted to get your take on the revisited conversation about COVID, I think only as a result of Anthony Fauci's testimony. I'm not sure that there was anything else that necessarily brought this back to the forefront, but obviously there's been a lot of relitigation of it. You wrote a whole book. What, if anything, did that bring up? What did that do? What are some of the questions that you want answered, and more importantly, issues that you think we need to advocate for in terms of health or anything? That's, I guess, my question.
Yeah. I mean, it's so painful, right? Because we've had this incredible retrenchment in public health because of this lack of social trust. We went into the pandemic with an incredible lack of social trust, but we also had all of this institutional knowledge and public health on every level. And we led the world in the vaccines. And now here we are, we have the most anti-science. I mean, my 9-year-old kid fastened on the fact that RFK Jr. put a squirrel in a blender. It's like, how can there be someone in the federal government who that he did that, right?
I know that he did that, but I mean, don't tell your 9-year-old what he did. He also caught a snake and threw it in the pool where all the kids were.
That's the one that gets her, and I understand why. But the point is, he has no understanding. He's anti-science. He's anti-science. They're objectively anti-science. They're objectively pro-disease. And they've enabled what enabled that. And I do think there's room for self-examination on the left. Absolutely. Because there was a high-handedness and an arrogance that exacerbated the gap in public trust. And I think it goes all the way. If you remember all the way back to, let's not tell the public to buy masks because there's not enough masks. And let's equivocate about whether it's airborne or not. Do you remember that in the very beginning?
I remember all of that. Yes. I have plenty of thoughts.
Give people credit that you have to tell them the truth and give them credit. And that's where we started to open up these lines of doubt. And then people said, Europe has opened schools and we haven't opened schools. Florida's opened schools and we haven't opened schools. What is going on? And it's like, well, shut up. Kids are going to die if you do this. And they fail to make decisions in the public interest. I mean, I have ire for everyone, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I read the book. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of good journalism on this, isn't it? I mean, that's why your opinion is informed by a lot of journalism that you yourself did.
Absolutely. And following the science on both sides, which is to say that COVID infections are dangerous, long COVID is dangerous, and keeping kids at home with no social contact is dangerous. There are health consequences to that, and we see what those are. So here we are. We have to somehow mend to come back together, right? And there is a massive amount of work to be done there.
Here we are. I should have just asked this to tag my question. It was Fauci's testimony, but then yesterday you saw the commander-in-chief in the Oval Office with microwaved Mel Gibson. Somebody called him that yesterday.
Oh my God.
Microwaved Mel Gibson made me laugh really hard. So RFK's in there and, all the rest of the team. And he's announcing a new vaccine schedule that every single pediatrician, organization, doctor, everybody is aghast at, that says the kids will die as a result of these. Now, it's not binding. Just to be clear, I want to say this, and I've posted it everywhere. Anyone that wants to and should get their kids vaccinated can. This doesn't change anything. I guarantee your doctor still is going to apply the same vaccine schedule in most states. But that is what a lot of this led to. The doubt about vaccines, the anti-science, anti-institution. That's, I feel like, where we're at with a president and a Health and Human Service Secretary who thinks the moon is made of cheese.
It's really painful. It is going to hurt poor children. I think that I will say something that gives me hope is, we have a doctor who just won a Senate primary, That's always good to have a doctor in the Senate, as long as it's
Dr. Abdul Al-Sayed.
And not only that, he's a public health specialist.
Yeah.
And to have that voice and to have that front and center and to reestablish the idea that, yes, we need big money out of medicine, just like we need big money out of politics. We need it to be affordable for people. And that's how you get, the way that people build trust is they build trust with their own doctors, right?
Yes.
Face to face. And then you need to have a doctor. Their kids need to have a pediatrician to go to.
Access. Yes.
Yeah. And so that you really do start. It starts with those basics, and I really agree with that. And it does give me a little bit of hope that that's the direction we can, should, and must go in. Because we've just started. We had the big beautiful bill raising people's premiums, right? And my sister is someone who's like, her premiums went completely off the table as a self-employed person. And now we're going to get the cuts to Medicaid after the midterms, and people are really going to be out in the cold. So we need a very strong democratic promise of people's healthcare. And I think it builds up from there. You give people healthcare, they have a doctor, they get to know their doctor makes recommendations. All of a sudden, vaccines are not such a bad idea.
Really good points, all of them. Before I let you go, though, I have one, as I often do when I'm talking to you, personal advice question. It often has to do with parents and parenting and kids and stuff. As you know, I just told you before we started here, I am now empty nest. It's been less than a week. My older daughter, moved out a few years ago into college. So I'm kind of used to that. But now both my daughters are going to be in Europe at least the next year. And my younger, I just left, and she's going to be, University of Amsterdam, which is amazing for her. But I feel like there hasn't been enough written or talked about. And maybe it's new because I don't know. Our parents didn't miss us as much as we miss our kids. We're so dedicated to parenting. We love our kids. We actually genuinely like spending time with them, that maybe we miss them more as well because we put so much into it. I don't know if that's true, but have you thought about this, or are you going to give me my kids are too young, I don't want to think about that?
No. You know me. I like the hard stuff. I have thought about it. I'm really sorry. I know it's really sad. I have a group of friends that all just went through this. I was at a dinner with them. And also it's like you go through the, like, getting them out into college was like the last big race. And then it's like, oh, it's done. It's hard, right? Like, feel those feelings, because it's also midlife and it's like a stage of life, right?
I call it the final stage in my midlife crisis. Lost my amazing dream corporate job. Marriage ended. And then I kind of was like, I think I'm through it. But of course, no, my daughter leaving. I'm super close with my daughter. My second daughter leave. That is definitely part of this midlife, whatever you want to call it. Crisis, fine. But I just wish it was something funnier or better or more original. But yes, that's what it is. It's the final stage.
It's a transition, right?
Yeah.
And life is transition.
Yes.
And, I don't have advice for you because I haven't been there, but I'll tell you what I've seen people do. Like, my friend Pooja Lakshman is writing a book about midlife, and she talks about, this is from positive psychology. You have choice in midlife is between generativity versus stagnation. So it's like more of the same, but less, or more and something different. And so what is that for you? It could be a dog. It could be ultra marathoning. It could be travel. It could be more volunteer work. I don't know how you can do more of the work that you do because you are everywhere all the time, but it's a thing that you put that energy into, and, the nurturing energy and the creative energy, and it doesn't go away. You have a choice to do something else with it.
I appreciate that. And I knew you'd have something wise to say. And I'm very grateful for it. And frankly, I am actually in a really good spot. I'm super sad. It's hard, but I'm also, and I talk about this just because I like to make sure I'm talking about important issues that people can relate to. And selfishly, people do give me good advice when they listen or see it. But I live right now with so much gratitude, from anything from my health to my parents, my daughters, to that my knees are working.
Yeah.
And, I do that whole loving kindness meditation, and I go through my whole body, and I'm just grateful and gratitude. And I get to work from anywhere. So I'm sitting here going, what am I going to do? What choices am I going to make with this blank canvas that I have? And so I'm really interested in people's ideas. I'm going to join a group, Anya. I don't know what type of group. I've always been jealous of alcoholics, because that group,
you mean ex-alcoholics?
Seems like fun. They hang out, they talk.
Yeah.
They can relate to each other. They all know when you walk in, I know what your thing is. I want that to be mine. It's not alcohol, but I got all kinds of stuff.
But Pete, I have to, my kids are 14 and 9. What's your advice for me for this stage of parenting?
Oh gosh. Don't trust your first instinct to protect. Because that's helicopter parenting. And I am so convinced, not to make it too binary, but that the free range parenting that we did, and the fact that every time I had my fear for them, I caught it and then pushed them out and said, yes, go to New York alone. Kids ride the subway every day.
Yeah.
None are dying. Whatever my fear is, her going out with her friends.
Yeah.
Like, don't go to that first instinct of fear and worry and just push them out, because that's where they gain the confidence. They gain the confidence from fucking up, from getting lost, from being humiliated and embarrassed. That's 9 and 14, very different ages, genders, all of that, stuff matters. But I think that's my hot take that you put me on the spot for.
I like that a lot. I'll have to relay that to my husband. He and I had a difference of opinion yesterday regarding a lifeguard chair and a firework.
Oh, that's hilarious. My dad was, for some reason, paranoid of fireworks and would lose.
I'm paranoid of fireworks. I think go on.
Well, I think I hate them, and I think they're bad, and I think we should be super careful.
Me too.
But even that, like, it does depend. Everything depends. Some of the most likely, like, bad thing to happen is strangely the best thing that happened. Like, you would never wish any of these adversities on your kid. You don't wish that your kid almost drowns.
No.
But when you have like an accident or, a close call, it makes you I should have gone with driving, like a better driver, like all those things that you would never want for your kid.
I hope so. I mean, and I was a bad driver as a teenager. So I did have those close calls. I just feel like, anyway, people approach risk in different ways. Letting your kid learn themselves is really good, but also talking to them about what's your plan. Right. And then afterwards, what went wrong? Like, what surprised you? What would you do differently? I think that's what I try to do in my life.
All of that's good. All that communication is good. If you can get a 14-year-old to talk, period, I mean, to you, and that's great. And I also just go by the statistics. That's the thing that calms my anxiety all the time. What is the likelihood that this thing that you're most worried about is going to happen? And then I can't believe I'm going to maybe make a choice about this based on 1%, less than 1% most of the time. So,
True.
Yeah. And meet strangers, kids. Go meet the strangers. They're very likely to help you find something, not hurt you, is how I think most people are good. Anya, get back to your vacation. People, everybody, thank her with a paid subscription. Nothing better than being an independent, self-employed person and getting paid subscriptions on vacation. The Golden Hour is one of the best Substacks you could possibly support. And Anya is one of the best journalists. She's won all the awards. She's worked at all the places. And if you ask smart people about her work, they can attest to it. So go subscribe. Anya, have a great vacation. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Pete. It was great talking with you as always. Take care.
All right. There she goes, everybody. All right. There you go. Anya Kamenetz, The Golden Hour. Like I said, go subscribe to it. She's so great. Really nice of her to join me. And always a great, great guest. Thanks so much for supporting me. Patreon.com and Substack at StandUpWithPete. Of course, subscribe on YouTube and find me on Facebook and Threads and Blue Sky and the rest. That's all I've got for you today. Thanks for watching, and be the change you want to see it.
The sirens teach you better stand up, let the brave meet the challenge, let the weak flee. Boy, you better stand up, when you're tired of begging, saying pretty please, that's the time you gotta finally get up off of your knees. When you can't see the forest for the burning trees, you got to stand up. Hey, you've been sitting so long, you got the creaky knees, you gotta stand up. I think you're driving wheels with leaking grease. Boy, you better stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know what's right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You gotta stand up. That's right. You got to rise up, you got to stand up, you got to stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear when all you hear is a lie. So get up off of your butt, get down off of your fence, and even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense and you stand up. Point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of a stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't in sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change would begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know that 'tis the time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. Alright, we got to speak up, we got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up. Got to stand up. Ooh, come on, just stand up. Everybody got to stand up in the darkest hour. Stand up. People got the power. Stand up. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. Stand